Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, my group will present about anthropological methodology in the scientific study of religion and Islamic perspective. So, what we'll discuss for today is anthropology of religion based on Western perspectives as well as Islamic perspective. So, both of these topics they have two subheadings that we'll discuss about. So people living in the West tend to have a clear idea of what religion should look like, so it tends to take place in a building set aside for a purpose, for example a mosque, which revolves around appeals to a higher or powerful deity and involves the articulation of beliefs, to which the general population may or may not subscribe. So anthropology will study such religion but also have examined contexts where religious practice looks very different. So in many cultures and societies, the idea of a single god may not be present, and the notion of reading a sacred book like Quran is very strange, not least because writing and reading may not play any part in people's life. So, even the Western notion of belief does not make much sense in contexts where ideas about gods and spirits are taken for granted and not challenged by other faiths or the conclusion of natural sciences. So, as said by Dr. Simon Coleman, anthropologists of religions are not concerned with discovering the truth or falsehood of religion. They are more interested in how religious ideas express a people's cosmology. So, in many societies, especially such as Prophet Shaman said that they have important political and economic as well as religious roles to play.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Fatin Emilia binti Masdi, metric number 1915684. So I will continue our presentation today, our group presentation today, which is about the Western methodology in the anthropology of religion. So we consider the study of the religious institution in a connection to other social organizations as well as the comparison of religion belief and practice across culture is the next step in the anthropology of religion. Modern anthropology, like Western anthropology, maintain that magical thinking and religion are inextricably linked and that every religion is a cultural product generated by human community that worship it. The Western anthropology of Islam is historical. It views Islam as an abstract ideal that overlooks literary tradition and spiritual hierarchy. Yet, one goal of Islamic anthropology is to develop alternative category and notion, which can then be discussed with Western anthropology. So, what Islamic concept, which include history and context, are still relevant and used for them? Yes. It is a very relevant until today, based on the underlying theme is Tawhid as unity and duality is foreign. Okay. So, according to the Western method of anthropology of the religion, it can be seen Windavin is one of the Western that advocate ulama, which is learned, and ummah, community society as important factor based on the sunnah regarding to the hadith, fiqh, and sharia. So, for him, God created human diversity with two reference, which is sharia rules and minhaj religion practice, the way of our life. So, man is a living creature having putra, which is natural God-given disposition, and he has a khilafah, which is state of vice regentship, and a din, status of authority, religion as way of our life. So the Sharia established parameters that allow for a variety lifestyle. According to Windavin, the Islamic frame is a global, which is a European ethnography from the outset failed to deal with diversity, leading to the concept of primitive people. So, in short, to prevent subjection to the conceptual premises of Western academia, the concept and principle that will form the foundation of Islamic anthropology must be carefully crafted, with like a discussion of the category of Islamic anthropology and social analysis will be of little use unless we are clear about the context in which they are to be used and investigated, and there will be plenty of room for mental inertia and habit to dismiss what is offered as merely a gloss on conventional Western anthropology. I think that's all for me. I will pass to the next presenter.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Siti Khadijah binti Syafi'i, metric number 1917234. Today I will talk about Western new method and approach in the anthropological of religion. So, religion study in the Western anthropology involve the other research in this regard, and area studies that originate in and prospered in the United States later developed a systematic and comprehensive understanding of regional study and produced unique theory. Following the Second World War, the anthropological crisis impact regional regional studies as well, prompting Western anthropological scholars to rethink and explore new approach. And religious belief are the way people think well about supernatural, and how the ideal and behavior this belief inspire contribute to the lifestyle of individuals and population are all studied through the lens of anthropology. Anthropologists have struggled to investigate religion, and now Western anthropology has established a new strategy to studying a religion by focusing on verbal communication, which is an observable behavior rather than speculating and purpose supernatural ideas that cannot be proven. So, next, rather than attempting to quantify unidentified supernatural belief, Western anthropologists examine a recognizable and observable conduct, that is, behavior of people indicating acceptance of supernatural idea. They discover that conveying acceptance of a supernatural claim encourage cooperative social interaction, and that this communication show a desire to embrace the speaker's influence without doubt. And anthropologists in the United States theories about the relationship between the culture and a location, with the culture area theory being the most common and commonly employed in his classification. And the culture area theory is one of the most important study method and on religion study culture presented by American anthropologists, and it focuses on the genesis, development, stabilization, and demise of the culture. And the last one, contemporary anthropological religion study, are studying new subject from religion studies, and religion anthropology seek to understand not only our religion culture but also how people, goods, and resources travel between them. So that's all from me.
Right, so we'll go on to the topic 2, anthropology of religion based on Islamic perspective. My name is Nurul Sharika, metric number 1923432. So the first subheading will be concept based on anthropologies of Islam. So the first one is Talal al-Asad. Asad's aim in his acclaimed article, The Idea of an Anthropology of Islam, was to make the indigenous discourse vocal and to reject the paternalist or colonial viewpoint wherein Muslim subjects do not speak, do not think, and only behave. So in his seminal article, Asad develops the idea to study Islam as a discursive tradition. So this concept means that Islam is neither a distinctive social structure nor a heterogeneous collection of beliefs, artifacts, customs, and morals. It is a tradition in which discourses are related to conception of the Islamic in the past and the future through a present. So, the Asadian framework enables to study Muslim through the analysis of their tradition. It privileges the focus on piety and ethical self-making. Without proposing an alternative conceptualization of Islam, some scholars criticize it in the sense that there is too much Islam in the anthropology of Islam. Moving on, the second one is Clifford Geertz. So Clifford is an American cultural anthropologist who wrote about the anthropology of Islam in his book, Islam Observed Again. He argued that the culture is made up of meanings people find to make sense of their lives and to guide their action. Interpretive social science in an attempt to engage those meanings. Unlike other anthropological scholars, Geertz did not focus on so-called primitive groups. So while anthropologists started researching Islamic societies in the late 1940s, Geertz was the first to articulate the potential and premises of an anthropological approach to Islam. So in his book, these are like the 3 points that I noted about Islam is observed again. First, he compared to Morocco and Indonesia, the Muslim within these two countries, to which he found out about their geographical state and also the society from within. So Morocco began to be absorbed into the Arabo-Muslim culture as early as the 1st century of Islam's history. Indonesia, by contrast, is basically a peasant society, and Islam arrived there much later, only after the 14th century. Also, he noted that he informed about the uniformity of Islam, which is unwarranted to argue that Islam as world religion has managed to impose and maintain an incomparable great measure of uniformity upon its adherents than has Christianity. That will be all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rani Iskamila binti Muhammad Elias Muhammad. My metric number is 1911622. I will continue for the part Islam methodology approach in the anthropology of religion. So the anthropological approach is actually religious research. This is because the anthropological approach has a mean to understand religion by looking at the form of spiritual practices that grew and developed in society. And the research is about the practices carried out by human, both individually and collectively, which is included first the individual behavior concerning society based on the religion they hold. Second, the practice of the society or a community, whether political, cultural, or other action, define themselves as adherent of a religion. Third, the religious teaching shape social institution, pattern, behavior, and culture of religious community. So from the description above, we can say that religious research was inseparable from reality and social transformation. The cultural approach in religious study conducted by anthropologists in the world of science called a qualitative approach. It's aimed to understand or western the target of research rather than quantitative approach which was actually measuring. Therefore, it's holistic and systematic, and this approach is related to both religion and culture. For example, an American anthropologist carried out a qualitative approach to examining Islamic society adaptation process in New Zealand. And according to him, the qualitative approach gave an overall result to illustrate the resources of existing Muslim community, the risk phase, and the result of the acculturation process. Like I said before, the anthropological approach was one of the methodologies in religious study that examine humanity's practice from the outward aspect or practical aspect. Islam has a person faith or loyalty quantitatively cannot be measured and investigate because it was an inner part of one's life. However, qualitatively, it's still possible to examine through existing indication, but defining definite indicator was challenging to implement. And there are some idea of anthropology Islamization, which is according to Ismail Raji Al-Faruqi, Muslim scholar must abandon the method of origin of dangerous imitation, rearrange and rebuild the idea of the Islamization of science in the field of literature, social sciences, and natural sciences that gave a new Islamic foundation and given new goals consistent with Islam. And lastly, rewrite every discipline so that it embodied the principles of Islam, both in its methodology, its data, its strategy, as well as its inspiration and goals that it was an integral part of Islamic view.
I will continue the next part, which is one suggested method for future. I will continue to the for the future research to be done related to the topic of the project. So I will choose the immersion in a culture, the method of immersion in a culture. Okay, so what we understand from the immersion in a culture is the methodology can be understand refer to food, festival, dress, holiday, and most importantly. So people who can teach you about their custom are all part of the experience. So cultural immersion is a two-way street in which you expose the individual your culture to your culture and custom while you experience and learn about a new culture. So, like as example, the cultural immersion is a learning activity that allow kid or student or any people to experience variety while also developing cultural safety, like a study abroad. So, the program seek to provide students with a cultural immersion experience. So, I think that's all for me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Okay, so for the conclusion, in studying our religion, the anthropological approach aims to define, classify, and explain a religion and its implementation. Because religion was a part of socio-cultural life, the anthropological approach to researching religion was the subject of study or research. It was not a study of the origin of the religion in the sense of revelation, but rather a study of human who live, believe, and are influenced by religion. Religious research took many different shapes. The mind was part of the culture, and religion was disclosed and realized in the category of human knowledge. And religious knowledge, not religion study, was the anthropological methodology because anthropology is a method of understanding religion by examining the various forms of spiritual activities that emerge and develop in culture. It was in keeping with study that found religion research to be inextricably linked to the reality and social change. And anthropology research produced theories such as ethnolinguistics, which look into the development of language in any societies around the world as well as the evaluation of society. So that's all from our group. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.